Hello. So yesterday we were talking about energy and how it can't be created or destroyed, and that we can change the frequency that we are vibrating at, but that it is a bit of a struggle, that it is something that we are going to have to be very diligent about. It's going to take some time to get used to, and it's changing that comfort zone. And so what I'd like to talk to you today about is how we got there in the first place, how we ended up getting these beliefs that end up becoming our comfort zone, and then we have to fight so hard to replace with a more positive belief. So I'm going to use the example of a money belief because I think everybody has this example or something similar to it. Right? A lot of us grow up in a time where people who are wealthy are maybe not spoken about in the best light. So for example, when I grew up in the 70s, 80s and 90s, I was always told, or it was always referred to people who were wealthy as people who were filthy, stinking rich. And so those are very negatively descriptive words for somebody who had money. There were a lot of stories in the news at that time of people who were taking advantage of other people, scamming them out of their fortunes. And there was this kind of belief that I grew up with in my family that if you had money, you had somehow gone about it in a negative way to get it. You had harmed somebody else in an effort to get money for yourself. And so, deep in my subconscious then, that would have equated to me believing that if I had money, if I gained wealth, that somehow I would be dirty, right? Filthy, stinking, rich, and that it was somehow a bad thing, right? And I think many people can relate to this particular example, which is why I've used it. But we can also use this example for many, many other things in our life, right? I happen to have grown up in an abusive home, and I suffered with all types of abuse. And the one that was the most difficult for me to get over was the psychological abuse of being told that I was ugly, stupid, worthless, and useless every single day. Right? Told that nobody was ever going to love me, I was never going to amount to anything because I wasn't worth it. And we left my abusive stepfather at that time when I was 12 years old. But I continued that mantra for the next well over a decade, right? Because I believed it growing up. Listening to it was no different than the occasional comment of somebody being filthy, stinking rich, right? It left the same impression on me, right? It developed a belief system that then became my comfort zone. And then every time that I was reaching success, or every time that I would be, maybe having a successful relationship, friendships, happy, just, generally happy, without consciously thinking of it, somewhere in my subconscious where that mantra that would play, that would tell me basically that I didn't deserve this. Same thing as if when I was generating money, generating an income, there was a portion of me in my subconscious that thought that I was doing something wrong because people who had money in my belief system growing up were people that had scammed somebody else, that had stepped over somebody else in order to get what they want, that they were filthy and stinking in order to be rich. So this kind of shaped my belief system and shaped the way that I reacted and acted to every single thing in my life. And I guarantee you that if you take a moment and you think really hard about some of the actions that you take, some of the reactions that you have towards other people, situations, circumstances, feelings, emotions that come up, anything at all, you just randomly pick one and you try to work your way backwards to figure out where that came from. I guarantee you it comes from a belief system that you adopted at a younger time, not necessarily your childhood, but at a previous time due to the circumstances and experiences that you were having at that particular time, and that you are basing your life on those experiences that no longer are true or relevant to you. So I task you with that today, to think of maybe a reaction that you had to something recently that you're not entirely proud of. We all have those moments, right? And look back on it and try to figure out why you actually reacted in that way. What was the driving force that you had there? What's the underlying belief system that you had? And I bet that you will end up realizing that you too have belief systems that are not true, and they are actually working to hold you back. They are part of your self-sabotage routine that you have in place. I task you with that. I wish you all the best of luck, and tomorrow I will send out our next video in this series. Bless.